Are the New York Knicks looking to pull off a trade for former Defensive Player of the Year Marcus Smart? Trade rumors surrounding the Grizzly guard and the New York Knicks are heating up, and we're going to break them down on today's show. Before we do, though, I want all the real ones to sound off for me in the comments section. If you could only pick one of these players to be on the Knicks for the next 3 seasons, who would it be? Type Marcus Smart, MS, or DM for Deuce McBride. You're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Preseason starts tomorrow, and we're going to be live on the channel for a watch party, including almost all 82 games this season. So if you love the Knicks and you want a one-stop shop on YouTube for live games, content every day, and an awesome community, smash that subscribe button. Shout out to Chris Persianen. He is a contributor for Knicks Film School. Awesome podcast. Shout out to Jonathan Macri and the crew over there. Also just does great work on the entire NBA. Chris tweeted this out a couple of days ago. I haven't gotten a chance to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it, so let's do it. He says the New York Knicks have had internal discussions about a potential deal for Marcus Smart per sources familiar with the situation. He says the New York Knicks have had rumored interest in Smart before. No deal is imminent, but several sources indicated the Knicks are willing to be active on the market. Persianen also mentioned, I believe last week we did a video on it, that the New York Knicks are also in talks about a Mitchell Robinson trade. So let's connect the dots. Maybe they're talking to the Memphis Grizzlies about a Marcus Smart for Mitchell Robinson trade. I can confirm, though, that the New York Knicks in this front office does have interest in Marcus Smart. Going all the way back to last year, the New York Knicks were in talks with the Boston Celtics before Smart got traded to the Memphis Grizzlies, where the Knicks would have sent Immanuel Quickley to Boston, and the New York Knicks would have acquired Marcus Smart. So there's been a long, run of people in that front office that have been advocating for Marcus Smart to be an ideal fit next to the Knicks. Look, good size as a guard, and he can guard up due to his strength, his length, and his defensive ability. 6'3", 220. He is 30 years old. He'll be 31 years old coming up in a couple of months. And last year, he averaged 14.5 points per game, but he only did it in 20 games for Memphis. They really never got to see that team play out. The Ja Morant stuff, Marcus Smart having injuries. He had a finger injury that he suffered in January that pretty much wiped him out for the entire season. And he wasn't playing bad basketball before the injury, but I would say it was a little bit short of his expectations. 14.5 points, that's fine. But just 43% from the field and 31% from downtown. So I wanted to go back and look at more of a sample size. So I went back and looked at the 2019 season through the 2022 season, all of those years spent in Boston for Mr. Marcus Smart. Look, he is what he is. He's going to give you anywhere from 10 to 15 points per game. He can play that point guard spot if you want him to. I think he's a little bit better off the ball, but he does have playmaking attributes. 4 of each of the last 4 years, he's averaged more than 4.9 assists. The thing that I get hung up and worried about with Smart in this team is the spacing and what exactly is his role. Because right now, the New York Knicks are littered with shooters from outside, and probably the worst shooter that's going to play regular rotational minutes is Josh Hart, whereas Marcus Smart, he just doesn't line it up from 3 and knock it down all that much, as you saw, less than 35% from 3 in each of the last 5 seasons. There are a lot of positives, though, if you were to pull off a trade for Marcus Smart. What would he add to the New York Knicks? Another perimeter defender. You could arguably have the 3 best perimeter defenders in the NBA, and more so a trio of NBA defenders with Marcus Smart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges. He's also going to give you playoff experience. He's played in like over 100 playoff games in his NBA career, and he makes winning plays. He is that ultimate glue guy. He is someone that will sacrifice. We saw him do that with the Boston Celtics, and I think that he is a Tom Thibodeau guy through and through. Why? Because of defense, experience, and he makes winning plays. And he has played in the playoffs a lot. And I wanted to kind of just look at the last 4 playoff trips, because that's really when he started to get a lot of minutes in the playoffs and a lot of usage as well. He's been to the playoffs 9 times in his career, but before 2019, he didn't really play all that much. But the last 4 trips, giving you 15-plus points per game, 4-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists, but 42% from the field. I do love and appreciate the fact, though, that he shot better in the playoffs than he does in the regular season, 35.1% from three. Look, I like Marcus Smart as a player, and in theory, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Knicks to be interested in him. Give you another guard that you could play alongside Brunson. It allows Brunson to play off ball. We've talked about that a million times on this show. Jalen Brunson's one of the best spot up and off ball players in this league due to his catch and shoot efficiency. He also gives you another guy that you can have roaming around the perimeter, and you could throw out an awesome defensive rotation if you include him, McHale, and OG all on the floor all together. But to make a trade, you got to entice the other team to make a trade. And I'm never going to doubt Leon Rose and Brock Aller and Worldwide Wes and Gerson Rosas in this New York Knicks front office. But the New York Knicks are almost out of trade assets. They have one tradable first-round pick, and thanks to the new CBA that makes trading in the NBA that much more difficult, they don't really have the bodies, more so the outgoing money, to make a deal work. The Knicks are $3 million shy of that second apron. They are hard capped there, meaning they can't spend more money than that. And they also need to sign 2 more players to get to 14 or 15 active guaranteed roster spots, meaning they would have to send out $20.21 million to make a Marcus Smart trade. They would have to send out more money than they could acquire. And it would be really tough for the New York Knicks to get to that $20 million spot for Marcus Smart. You look at the contracts on this team, and I think the first thing you're going to notice is the New York Knicks can't even trade a good number of players on their team. Not saying they would, but some of the players they can't trade. They can't trade OG Anunoby. They can't trade Jalen Brunson. They can't trade Karl Anthony Towns. They can't trade Precious Achiuwa or Landry Shamet or Cam Payne. So you're looking at guys like Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, Miles McBride, Jericho Sims, Tyler Kolek, and Pacome Dadier. Remember, you got to get to $20.2 million. So let's at least, not saying I do these trades, let's talk about what a trade could look like. One, any deal that's involving Marcus Smart, Mitchell Robinson is going to be included for the simple fact that he is the largest outgoing salary the Knicks are willing to part with, $14.3 million. And if I'm the Memphis Grizzlies and I'm giving you Marcus Smart, I want a player back that can play like Marcus Smart. That's Miles Deuce McBride making $4.7 million. But even 14.3 and 4.7 here, we're not over that $21.2 million threshold. So you'd have to add somebody else. Maybe a Pacome Dadier, maybe a Tyler Kolek, and maybe a Jericho Sims. That's roughly $2 million. This would make the money work, but you're trading 3 players for 1 player. And even more so, I'm not doing that. I'm not trading Miles McBride for Marcus Smart. Is Smart right now in 2024 a better basketball player than Deuce McBride? Most likely. He is probably a better basketball player. But one guy's 30, coming off injuries the last couple of years, shoots below league average from 3, and one guy's 23 years old, under contract for 3 more years, and ascending, while I think Marcus Smart is descending, even though his descension will still make him a very solid player and a rotational piece on a championship caliber team. Look, we saw Deuce grow so much this year, and I've got a lot of love for Deuce McBride. I may not think he's a point guard, but I think there is somewhere in this league and somewhere on this team, more importantly, where he is going to affect the winning and the losing. Look, played just 19 and a half minutes in the regular season, giving you 8+ points per game. He got that 3-point percentage up to almost 41% from the field. It has grown every single year. Then in the playoffs, he put a lot on his plate. He being Tom Thibodeau, nearly 30 points, 30 minutes per game, giving you 11 points per game, 44% from the deck, and 37% from downtown. And I believe both those numbers are going to grow. He's still just 24 years old, and he might be on the best contract in the NBA outside of Jalen Brunson. It's a descending contract. He's under Knicks control until the 2027 free agency, ladies and gentlemen. And he'll be 26 years old then. He's 24. He's 24 years old this year, making $4.7 million. When you factor in age, when you factor in contract, and you factor in the player, I would just rather have Miles McBride than a guy like Marcus Smart. So we're not doing that trade. So how's another way you can get to $20.1 million? Well, 14.3 for Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa, $6 million. But you can't make that trade until mid-December because Precious Achiuwa was technically a free agent, and you re-signed him. And he is unable to be traded until I believe the exact date is December 15th. So are we going to go through 2 months of the regular season and then once we get here December 16th, talk about moving on these two guys? Okay, sure, let's do that. Let's trade Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa. On paper, I think a lot of people would think the Knicks won that trade. But I think the people that follow this channel and the people that follow this team and they know what the hell they're talking about, if you make that trade, everyone's going to say, where's our front court depth? Who's our backup center? Who's our starting center if Karl Anthony Towns gets hurt? Because then you would just have a starting lineup, or excuse me, a front court depth chart that features Mitchell Robinson, Jericho Sims, and Ariel Hukporti. And I don't think anyone wants to live in a world where that is the reality for these New York Knicks. It just creates another hole. Like, it just does. Sure, you can send out Precious Achiuwa and Mitchell Robinson. Money works. Some people would probably really appreciate that trade. But then it just creates another hole for you at the backup big spot. And that's been something the Knicks have been trying to fill since the season has ended and Isaiah Hartenstein left in free agency to go join the Oklahoma City Thunder. Look, I really don't get the Smart hype. Like, I see some things that make some sense, right? A veteran, played in a lot of meaningful basketball games. He can guard multiple positions. He would raise the ceiling of the Knicks on defense, and it lengthens out your rotation in the bench, right? But I actually like the Knicks' backcourt depth. I really, really do. And maybe I'm biased and I'm a homer and I'm a diehard Knicks fan and that's why. But I like Jalen Brunson, obviously. And I like Cam Payne. And I like a young buck Tyler Kolek. And I like having a guy like Miles McBride. And I think Landry Shamet's going to prove some people wrong this year and remind them that he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. Like, the Knicks' problem is not point guard and shooting guard depth. It's, if anything, it's wing depth and center depth. And even then, like, are we trading for Marcus Smart to be our small forward off the bench? And if you trade for Marcus Smart, where's he going to play? Because you know Brunson's playing 40 minutes in the playoffs. You know Bridges is playing 40 minutes in the playoffs. Josh Hart may play all 48 minutes in the playoffs. OG's playing 40, and Cat's playing 40. So are we trading for Marcus Smart to play 16 minutes a game at $20 million while sacrificing the future of Deuce McBride? Unless then we're waiting to trade Precious Achiuwa, then we're thin at front court? Look, I get some of the reasons. That's why I had that graphic earlier about things that he would bring. But I think when you remove emotion and, like, you take away the name of Marcus Smart, because I think that a lot of people still think he is that guy from the Boston Celtics, and maybe he is. I think that player's gone. I think he's still really good. I just don't think he's a great player anymore. And I would rather Josh Hart close games than Marcus Smart, while also still having Miles McBride on this team. I don't know. You decide. I wouldn't do a trade for Marcus Smart. I think there are bigger fish out there that can help this team win now and in the future, and maybe you don't have to sacrifice Deuce McBride. Do you want Marcus Smart on the New York Knicks? I will say it would be awesome to see Marcus Smart join the Knicks and then they go beat the Boston Celtics, and he can say, I told ya, as Smitty. Producer Smitty shaking his head at me, diehard Celtics fan. Do you want Marcus Smart? Y for yes and for no. Make sure you are following me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on IG. Hit me up over there and join us live on the channel for Watch Party number 1, which is going to be a year where a banner gets raised at MSG. Let's go, Knicks!